Welcome to Hypnotic Authenticity. This is a place to reflect, a place to unwind perhaps, to understand yourself a little better, and to gently reshape the patterns that guide your life. A little bit like a conversation between you and your deeper self. So I'm offering a sprinkling of hypnosis, insight, some meditative guidance, and it's all going to be woven throughout a deep sense of practicality. So that if I do my job well, each episode is going to help you feel more grounded, also more open, and more authentically you. So if you're ready, let's begin. So this one is on the subject of the parallel that I drew between a client's explanation of a psychedelic experience that they had had, and the experience that I had over quite a few years, in actual fact, that was a sort of a self-induced creation of euphoria, which, some people would label as an awakening. I find that a little bit of a grandiose label. But indeed, it was the result of the opening up and maybe cracking myself open and embracing my vulnerability and questioning what it was that I thought I knew, and questioning my labels and questioning my everything, that resulted in this somewhat euphoric state, which lasted such a long time that I thought it was worthwhile to create a recording for. So I'll hand over in a moment to that recording, and you can listen. If it's the sort of thing that provokes thoughts inside of you, provokes questions, by all means, pop me a message somehow or other. AuthenticLifeCoaching.ch is my website. You can find the contact details on there. And I would be absolutely thrilled to hear from you, or any contributions that you would like to make. I would also, I have the whole purpose of this is to create a dialogue. So if anyone feels brave enough to actually want to have a conversation with me, that could in itself become a participative process in a future podcast episode, get in touch. Who knows what might happen. And I think this is the way to kind of delve a little more deeply than if I'm just talking on my own kind of parrot fashion. Anyway, with that, I'll hand over now to my alter ego who lives on YouTube, and I hope you enjoy the episode. I'm going to talk to you today about how I accidentally, without any intention on my behalf, created a sense of what I can only describe as connected, euphoric, awestruck wonderment and bliss inside of myself that lasted for maybe 3-4 years. An almost religious experience that I had no expectation of whatsoever, that just occurred. And the reason I thought I would talk about this, because over the last month or so, I've had 2 or 3 different discussions with different clients on the subject of psychedelics and microdosing. And I'm not an expert on either of those subjects. And the clients were being followed by professionals that were monitoring in that regard. I very much stick to my knitting, which is hypnotherapy. But the way that they explained their experience to me was so extraordinarily similar to what I experienced by completely natural means, and that lasted so long. That's why I thought it might be of interest. So if you would be interested in finding that incredible sense of connectivity, of relating with yourself on a deeper level, but also relating with all things on a deeper level, to the point where your ego kind of fades away and everything is just beautiful. It's pure. It's divine. It defies words. It is so much bigger and more bountiful and more astounding than words. Then that's kind of what I'm going to try and talk about today. And I'll try and keep it as structured as I can. But it is tricky, right? Because this is something which, it's not with me to the same extent right now. And so I want to talk about that coming down process as well, and what I have understood from that, the conclusions that I've drawn from that. But it is absolutely wild to understand that you can create this within yourself. It doesn't require a chemical interaction, unless you want to call, the creation of the chemicals of your mind, perhaps, as being your own internal psychedelic. Maybe you want to call that. And although it only happened to me for 3 or 4 years, maybe you can find a way to make it last a lifetime. I've certainly, the mind expanded can never snap back. And so I find now, you can probably tell from the video, that I get very evangelical about this. I get very excited about it. And so now I can create this state inside of me when I choose to do so. And when I'm not choosing to do so, it's just there. It's in the background. It's a bit like an old friend that you haven't seen for a while, but you know that they're there, and it makes you feel safe and secure. So it's not so loud, it's not so vibrant, it's not so wild. It's more composed, more accommodated. It's an element of you rather than an aspect of you just screaming out so loud. Because everything, I guess, is transitory. I guess is one of the conclusions. But anyway, let's not go too far. So let me tell you what I did and what it felt like. Okay, because I genuinely built a natural high, and it lasted for years, right? A state of genuine euphoria. I was walking down the street with an expression of bliss on my face, of wonderment, of awestruck wonderment, of sheer euphoria, of happiness beyond verbal description. The gap between me and everything I don't know if it had evaporated completely, but it had definitely disintegrated, dissolved to a great extent. And I felt like the weight of the me that I had to maintain, the somebodyness, the identity that I was, that weighty armor that dictated the way that I needed to continue to be in the light of those previous identities, that all of that evaporated, lifted, and I was just free to be, to let go of the story of what I was or what I should be, and instead just embrace what I was. Now, I've talked before about what it was that triggered this. I had my own personal dark night of the long soul, long night of the dark soul. The moment of something needs to change. I don't know what needs to change, but something needs to change. And I was lucky that the pain attached to that was larger than the benefit of maintaining my sense of what I was yesterday. And so just for a brief period, I was able to say, I don't know what I should be doing, but I know what I was doing isn't helping. So I'm not going to do that. And that left me wide open because I didn't know what to do other than what I was, what my rules and policies and procedures were. That was me. That was my identity. That was my definition. That was the hooks by which I maintained my pain effectively. And so I had thrown that away. But then what do you do once you've thrown that away? Because there's nothing there behind you. There's no separate rule book. And so you're left with kind of a blank slate for a moment. So the only thing that I did in my unknowing was to stop planning, to stop engaging with the story by which I maintained that old flawed sense of me and it. I stopped doing that entirely. And I let what occurred occur. I gave up maintaining the lie and opened myself up to whatever might be, because the risks involved with maintaining the lie were so bad that it was worth trying something else. Now, everybody finds that moment in their own way, by their own definition, by their own experiences. And my aim in doing this video is to make it unnecessary for you to go through that moment, to embrace the potential possibility of letting go of your story. Because the end result is, even though I didn't expect any of it, even though I didn't know what I was expecting, it, whatever it is, came to me. I didn't go to it. So this is something that I became aware of as I let go of the story, of the pins, of the hooks, of what it was that I should be. And that process cut through the noise. It cut through the identity. It cut through the stories of what I might be or should be or ought to be or could be. And it showed me something far, far deeper. And that thing, to my astonishment, was deeply caring. It was deeply compassionate. It was deeply human. It was deeply loving. And so in a weird kind of paradoxical way, I let go of myself and found myself, you might want to say. I let go of my need to maintain appearances and accepted what I was. I let go of all my disappointments, my errors, my lapses of judgment, my stupidities, the things that I kind of mentally berated myself, my shame, my guilt. I let go of all of that. And I forgave myself. Or at least I accepted myself. I said, well, it turns out I am what I am. And it doesn't matter what I should be. And it doesn't matter what someone else says I should be. It turns out I am what I am. And I'm going to accept that. I'm going to own that. And rather than telling myself that that's insufficient, instead I'm going to love that. When you stop struggling against yourself, it's like you've just been re-injected by a lifetime of energy, because you'd be surprised how much energy you spend struggling against yourself, maintaining the peace inside your system. And when you let go of that, it is truly a rush of, it's beyond adrenaline, abundance. Let's call it a rush of abundance, a rush of everything, an unfolding of awarenesses, awareness after awareness after awareness, aha moments after aha moments. Every night, every dream would be another wow sort of thing as I peeled back what it was that I thought I was and looked behind that. I've talked in another of the videos about effectively kind of identifying with the projectionist that is shining the picture on the screen, and then identifying with the projectionist of the projectionist and the projectionist of the projectionist of the projectionist, and identifying with all of that and seeing things in a different way, where what you thought was real turns out to be potentially real, turns out to be one way of describing, but by no means defines and describes all. It's simply an aspect of perception. And you can go far with that. You can get to the point where there is no need to identify with a certain characteristic of yourself, to defend what it is that you think you are, and to stop being something, to stop maintaining that identity, and instead just be. And indeed, that's what it was. I just was. I let go of that effort to maintain and instead just let myself be. And as I say, when you do that, you discover things inside of yourself. It feels like a rebirth. It feels like a renaissance. With the passage of time, you come to realize that actually it's not a rebirth. It's not a renaissance, because at the same time, even though it feels invigorating, it feels like you've just been injected with the vim of life, it also feels incredibly familiar. It feels safe. It feels like a deeply, deeply rooted sense of you. It feels like you've come home, or that you're on the way home. So it feels very safe as well. It feels wild. It feels as if there are colors out there in the world that you didn't know existed before, but that somehow they're all right, that you've shrugged off this defensive glue which was apparently protecting you, and you're seeing an extension of that. I wanted to say the truth, but let's not go down that route. Yeah. But you see, the thing is, once you've done that to yourself, you can't help but then do that to other. So we start from this perspective of I, and I am important, and I need this and that, and I must defend against this and that. And instead you see that behind all of that, that was just a series of stories that were being maintained to kind of appease the risk manager of your mind. And then there is a deeper side to you. And if there's that deeper side to you, well, then there must be a deeper side to all other people at the very least, and probably to all animals and plants and air and water. And you get to the point where suddenly all is one. This is why it was the psychedelics that kind of brought it to me, because you feel at the point that the beauty of the entire universe is encapsulated in a droplet of dew. That all is one, that we're all one, that we are all our neighbor, that we're all immigrants, that we're all paperless, that we're all naked and vulnerable, but that at the same time, we are all expressions of the universe. It's not that we're the center of the universe, that we are an expression of source. We are a manifestation of this thing that I can't even describe, that is the universe, or the ecosystem. We have this perception inside of us. We have consciousness that we think is us. But actually what we're doing is we're having a thought about consciousness, about thinking it's us. And where did all of that come from? So we're all in the same school. Every single one of us on this planet, on everything beyond us as human beings. Everything is an emergent phenomena, and we're all rubbing against each other. There's friction being created. There's heat. There's noise, and that creates what we consider to be the experience of life. But the deeper you go into this, the more you kind of let go of what it was that you thought was controlling it. So your ego fades away. The boundary between you and other dissolves. I'm not sure it dissolves completely because this chattering part of your mind is still always there, but it most definitely dissolves. And this lightness, this freedom, this acceptance, this your entire perception of your self-worth can't help but change when you realize and you experience and you feel at a visceral level the connection of all things of which for some reason you have the privilege just for a moment in the speck of the expansive universe to dance. And that's where the euphoria comes from. And I can feel it inside of myself. And I told you that this is no longer ever present inside of myself. So I had all of this, okay? This was all there. Everything that I saw through the viewfinders of my brain said the noise is just noise. That buzz that creates my understanding of what it is to live in the city of the world of life. It's all somehow emergent, that there's a deeper source behind that everything is somehow ricocheting off each other, and that all of that is somehow in balance, in harmony. And that somehow or other, that means that everything is cause and effect. And somehow all of that is therefore predictable. And somehow, therefore, what is free will and what is within my control and what is outside of my control when everything is one and all is somehow the void. Yeah? All is nothing. The beauty of everything, the beauty of nothing, and the peace within. And then, yeah, having reached that extraordinary euphoric awakening, if you want to call it awakening, that completely affected the way that I then lived within the world. It completely affected my relationships with everything that I interacted. It completely affected my questioning of my judgment, of everything, of every fixed idea inside of me. And this sense of awestruck wonderment grew and grew and grew with each revelation. And I genuinely thought that this was the new me, that this was this was me forever. But as we know from the science of happiness, as we know from this hedonistic cycle, we as an individual have this unbelievable ability to normalize whatever it is we feel. So even a euphoric, extraordinary state, well, there's a point at which those aha moments just become another aha moment. It becomes your new normal. And so that ecstatic gratitude, it doesn't go away completely, but it kind of fades away a little bit. You become accustomed to it, and so you kind of forget about it. Not that you really forget about it, but like when I talk about this, it's quite clear that it generates this sense of euphoria inside of me again. So the end result is that I now have the ability to call upon these feelings whenever I choose to do so. But when I'm not choosing to do so, it's 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 there, but it's quiet in the background. It's like an old friend that I haven't seen for a while, but that makes me feel very warm and secure, knowing that I've had the privilege of experiencing that friendship. And this took me a while to deal with, because it's you have a sense of grief, a sense of loss when it diminishes, because it's fantastic. It's absolutely wild. It's like going into the cinema and seeing a film with a fifth dimension that you've never seen before. It's impossible to describe in words. And when that starts to fade away, oh, it's a shame. It's a shame. And bearing in mind, I had that for like 3 or 4 years. Well, for a psychedelic substance, that's pretty damn good, right? So, so let me talk about what I've understood as a result of that. Because bear in mind, okay, my route to getting there was through self-acceptance. It was through no longer deciding what it was that I wanting, and then fighting against my system in order to beat and get it, and to drop all of that and to change instead towards a system of harmony with myself, of harmony with you, a harmony with all things. I'm not banging against the system, not struggling against myself, but instead embracing the beauty of all things, and a sense of the beauty inside of myself as a manifestation of the beauty of all things, sort of thing, and accepting that whatever is will be, and that the stories that are ramming down my brain from culture, from history, that all of that is, well, it's potentially worth considering, but it's not necessarily all things. And that there is a wisdom beneath that I need to discover myself. Yeah, that I need to start to mark my own scorecard, listen to my intellect and my gut, and somehow find my own truth within that. Yeah, so all of that is suddenly coming up against, how do I make sense of this euphoric, blissful, evangelical experience which has lasted and lasted and lasted? And how do I make sense of the fact that it is now diminishing? And is that right? Is that wrong? Should that be occurring? And suddenly I'm back in the shoulds, and back in the evaluations. And so what I've come to conclude, in actual fact, is that, and that it all just is, that I was unbelievably fortunate, that I was blessed, if you want to call that. I don't want to talk in religious terms, but I participated in a gift, let's call it. And I must be thankful, and I must understand that gift to the extent that I can. I must retain it inside my heart, and utilize it, right? As a kind of, there is a goodness that could come from this. There is a meaning that could come from this. There is a direction to life that could come from this. There is an even deeper level to self-acceptance. Having ridden that wave, and having noticed what happens when the crest breaks. And so to kind of get to the point where, yeah, it's an aspect of life, that all things are in flux, that the goodness is in flux as much as the darkness, that my awareness, the mind expanded, can't snap back. So that is there, but that it can't be maintained forcibly, that it will come and go, it will ebb and flow. And so these days, I will be triggered by stories, by the noise of politics, by the judgments of the system, by the injustice that goes on in the world. It hurts. But my compartmentalization mechanisms are different to how they used to be. And so now I can choose. And so that's why I'm recommending this to anybody that can find a way to discover this self-acceptance inside of yourself, because it gives you options. It gives you choices. Yeah. So it's still all there inside of me, but rather than being like there, it's now at my disposal, as is everything else. So these lower planes, these base physical needs, intellectual needs, spiritual needs, mindful needs, all of that is there. It's all in flux. And I can access the, what do you want to call it? The higher plane. I can access it, right? I go there. I typically connect. My first way of connecting with it is through the breath, because that instantly centers you back inside of yourself. I connect with it through self-hypnosis. I connect with it through a conscious choice to do so. I can connect through it through an act of kindness. I can connect with it through an act of gratitude. I can connect with it through engaging in nature. I can connect with it by engaging my imagination. I can connect with it by closing my eyes and going inside of myself and finding the peace inside of myself, or by looking at something in such a way that I permit every feeling to be expressed, be it sucking on a dried raisin, to considering the expanse of the universe and trying to work out what's going on at CERN. All of these things are now accessible. They're not there all the time, but they're there when I can make a choice to do so, and also when I can remember that my thought is just a thought, and that that sense of identity is a creation that I am using to get on with my day to day, that's helpful, that's useful, but that isn't the entirety of reality. I hope some of that makes sense. Yeah. What you're doing, if you can join me in this journey, what you're doing is you are giving yourself access to greater levels of fluidity, greater levels of expanded awareness, greater degrees to which you can relinquish the ego, relinquish the chattering part of your mind, expanding your connectivity with yourself, with your fellow man, with all things, and dissolving into that and becoming a beauteous, harmonious, blissful expression of the universe. You trust yourself at the end of it, because somehow there is a certain faith inside being an element, an expression of all, rather than needing to keep a grip on what it is that you think you are. So the peace kind of comes and goes, it ebbs and flows, but it's always there in the background, waiting to be accessed. And the reason that I do hypnosis is to help people to have a visceral, mental, cellular, spiritual experience that forces them to confront, just for a split second, what it is that they think they are, and to perhaps taste the beauty in the opportunity of everything else. Yeah. To help you, to help others, to help everyone, to help the system, to help heal whatever needs healing in that moment, by harmonizing rather than fighting against. Yeah. That seems sufficiently motivational and beautiful to me. I think I'm going to stop there. Otherwise, I'll lift myself so far up into the clouds that nothing will make sense anymore. So thank you for watching. I have no idea how long I've been talking, but I will stop now. If any of that resonates, please let me know. Right? The most frustrating thing about talking these videos on YouTube is you don't know what I can't see your response, and I would love to know your responses. I can't be the only one that has experienced this. There must be lots and lots of people that have experienced some element of this. And I'm not saying that my way is the way. I'm sure it's just one of a gazillion ways. And it would be so delightful to create a little community of beauty, of bountifulness, of pure, sweet, nectar-dripping abundance. I don't know if that's capable, but if it's a possibility and you know how to do that, join me, send me a message, do something, tell me, and let's make the world a better place. That's the whole purpose of me doing these videos. All right, I'm sorry I've whittled on a bit, but thank you very much, and take care, and love thy neighbor. This is a tricky time. This is a tricky time for the world, and be kind. I am a firm believer that kindness always wins. Trust yourself, trust your gut, trust your intuition, learn, mark your own scorecard, think for yourself. Don't blindly accept the noise that comes in through your ears and your eyes, through whatever it may be. Examine the thoughts, examine the feelings inside of you. Question where those trigger points are coming from. Question why you become triggered by that. Question the truth behind that. Question the thoughts behind the thoughts. Question what you are, and share that. Because I assure you, deep inside of all of us is this incredible warmth, incredible kindness, incredible compassion. Fear gets in the way. Fear triggers us instantly to go back to this egocentric defense mechanism. But beneath it is all thing, is all, is being, is loving, is kindness, is maybe source, maybe soul. I don't know. Oneness. All right, take care. Cheers. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, if it supported you in some way or helped you to question your inner experience, then follow the show. Personally, I would be really grateful if you might also leave a quick rating. It makes a huge difference in terms of discoverability so that other people who might benefit can find the podcast. If you prefer a visual element, check out Authentic Life Hypnosis on YouTube. And if you're looking for deeper work beyond one-way audio yourself, you're very welcome to reach out. Equally, if you have any questions, I'm here to help. Until next time.